Right, so a story that has been appalling people in the last few days concerns wheelchair usage in hospitals. Namely, in this case, the fact that NHS hospitals in London have now started charging people to hire wheelchairs during their visits. If you need a wheelchair, and that could be to do with ongoing health issues, or merely the fact you've had an accident and are sat in A&E and just needed one that one time, you're now going to be charged £2 an hour for the privilege. Other than that, suppose you can just walk it off, presumably. Boris Bikes for hospitals is the name of the game, if you will. However, the firm behind this appalling scam, frankly, which can only have ever been enabled through consistent NHS underfunding and ever-tightening budget restraints, and therefore will likely be repeated further across the country, given the Starmer administration isn't changing a damn thing, is run by 3 Israelis, all based in Israel. So it seems if you need a wheelchair in London these days upon needing to go to hospital, you could well be funding a genocidal apartheid state, whether you want to be or not. Right, so this is a story I've seen a few commentators covering, but before the full extent of just how awful a story it actually is had come out, it seems, because the people who are actually behind this scam of a wheelchair hire system, replacing the hospital's need to provide wheelchairs themselves, are all based in Israel. A nation a great many people are intentionally choosing right now to not support, via personally undertaking a conscientious choice in what they choose to buy or invest in, boycott, divestment and sanctions on a personal level, at any rate, as our ardently Zionist government under Keir Starmer refuses point blank to entertain any such notion. But if you literally need support when you happen to visit a hospital, in London now at least, well, you might not have a lot of choice. All of this is an ongoing symptom, first and foremost, of how our NHS is being set up to collapse, just like anything that has been privatised over the last 40 years has been set up to fail in order to deliver on that. We can't get an ambulance these days if we need one. Therefore, if we have to go to hospital for something, we, more often than not, are having to pay to get there ourselves via public transport, hospital transport, taxi, whatever. And if you're injured and can't walk there, you can't exactly get there under your own steam any other way, can you? Once there, though, if you now need a wheelchair, well, you're now going to get charged for that too. £2 an hour, though you do get the first 4 hours free. How generous. Good luck getting in and out of A&E inside 4 hours. Again, not the NHS's fault, though. They haven't the staff. They haven't the resources they once did. So many were lost due to Brexit, of course. So many who might have come now get demonised as migrants stealing our jobs by ever more right-wing political parties and politicians, from the Tories to Reform UK Limited to Starmer's shambles of a Labour Party. The UK has just become a less attractive place. And when the NHS has always relied on migrant labour, we've never trained enough staff ourselves in this country. Again, poor levels of investment by successive right-wing governments, we are in the mess we are in. Currently, the Wheel Share scheme, as it is called, which is such a nonsense name, they should call themselves Wheel Charge or Wheel Con, is only in King's College Hospital in Lambeth. But Wheelshare, knowing the chronic wheelchair shortage existing in the capital's hospitals, they have grand plans for expansion, apparently, just now beginning in Hillingdon Hospital in Uxbridge, apparently, soon to come to other hospitals too, I dare say. This story is a massive scandal within our hospitals, just as far as I've described it here. If I stopped now, it would be a massive scandal. But it was broken by a new news outlet called London Centric, which has just been launched by former Guardian and BuzzFeed journalist Jim Waterson. Now, if this is the sort of story he's going to be picking up, stuff that the Guardian would certainly never have bothered with, then I'd like to think that this is a mainstream journalist getting back to his roots of what it truly means to be a journalist. But it also speaks volumes of the mainstream media and how truly dire it is that it no longer holds power to account if this is indeed his career move of choice. An excerpt from his London-centric media on this story, reading, "When London-centric approached King's College Hospital NHS Foundation Trust, they said the rental scheme was designed to improve the supply of wheelchairs and the fees ensure they are returned by patients. A spokesperson said the hospital pays Wheelshare to provide the hire service. The scheme helps ensure that every patient who needs a wheelchair can find one when they arrive at hospital. Patients using a wheelchair who experience far longer waits for treatment are able to have these costs refunded by contacting Wheelshare directly. However, no such option for a refund was advertised when London Centric visited the hospital, nor was it mentioned in text messages sent by Wheelshare to patients who had been charged. Instead, when settling the bill for a wheelchair on the docking station, patients are prompted to pay an extra donation to the NHS hospital." It really does have scam written all over it. But as it turns out, this is actually only part of how bad this story actually gets. Because who makes the money and who exactly are Wheelshare London? It didn't take long for someone to look up the company up on Companies House. And when they looked at the people behind it, the three people who were listed on there as the officers, they might have got an almighty shock, because despite being called Wheelshare London, all three officers are Israeli, and all of them are operating from the same Israeli address. Wheelshare London itself, it has to be said, operates from a London address, but none of the three officers cite that address for themselves personally. And more suspiciously, when you look at who these people are on Companies House, because it's all publicly available information, all three cite the same Israeli address. And I'm coming back to that again in a moment. But the three people named on Companies House as being behind Wheelshare London are the two CEOs, Israel Kazirer and David Michael, and a chief financial officer, Meir Slater. Kazirer's LinkedIn shows he's got a background in marketing, but his professional background shows a particular interest in private healthcare, both in Israel and now here, with him being the CEO of Wheelshare since 2017, when the company was clearly devised, though only appears on Companies House from 2022. David Michael's LinkedIn shows Wheelshare as just a company he has an interest in. His main business appears to be a CEO of the Shagrir Group, an Israel-based vehicle company which owns car-sharing company Car2Go Limited, which also has a subsidiary in supplying mobility vehicles, as well as offering a Boris Bike type of service as well. You can see how the wheelchair hire idea kind of fits in between the business experiences of both of these men. Meir Slater's background is in money. His LinkedIn shows he is a founder of Wheelshare too, but his background is in finance, a former head of research at the Bank of Jerusalem and a senior analyst at an investment company called Meitav Dash. I haven't found any overt connections to any of these people to the IDF or the Israeli government or anything like that, but they will of course presumably have done their national service as Israeli nationals. And the fact this company has a foothold in exploitation in our hospitals will be money going back to Israel. Something that will, for a lot of people, be appalling enough on its own. Now, I said I was coming back to that address as well. And the reason for that is much like was found with regards to the Bulgarian address that all those exploding pagers that went to Lebanon were allegedly manufactured at. It's an address for a great many other companies as well, it seems. Fourier Technologies, who make communications equipment, operates from the same address as these three Wheelshare officers claim on Companies House. 21 Hamalaka, Rosh Hayin, Israel. Hamalaka being the street, Rosh Hayin, a settlement just to the east of Tel Aviv. Now, not to be a conspiracy theorist in any ways, but who wants to be anywhere near anyone working in Israeli tech these days after the pager incident? And why are they sharing an address with these Wheelshare officers? What's the connection? Is there one? Should we be concerned by that? Is this another one of those addresses that's being used by a lot of companies? And of course that in itself begs the question of why that is. And if you Google just that address, all manner of companies get listed in the search results as being based at that address. Another one is Mobidio Technologies, who also operate from that address, computer systems designs and software analysis. ASOX Limited is another tech company that operate from this same address. Farm Shalom, a drugs wholesaler, also operates from that address. And it goes on. I dare say more may yet come out on this story if the right people keep on investigating, if the mainstream gets shamed into finally covering this themselves. If you don't want to fund Israel, if you're choosing to boycott Israeli products, you might not have a choice if forced to hire a wheelchair in a hospital near you soon. Even when the mainstream media try and cover an important story relating to the Middle East, however, they still inevitably end up towing an establishment narrative. It doesn't always end well for them, though, as this video recommendation will tell you all about, to entertaining result. They deserved it, as you suggested next watch, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.